Hello everyone. So today we have an article by National Review, and this actually dropped a couple days ago, but we're finally seeing it and we cannot believe the headlines. The headlines on this National Review article are elderly woman euthanized to avoid the anguish of lockdown loneliness. Just the title alone is absolutely bonkers, but let's read on to get the gist of what's going on here. An elderly Canadian woman was killed by her doctor because she would rather be dead than go through another COVID lockdown. When it looked like she would have to be confined to a room for 2 weeks, she asked for, and here's the catch, she received it, the lethal jab due to declining mental health and vitality. We just can't even begin to understand what's going through anyone's heads to think this situation in any way, shape, or form is okay. And we have to wonder if this situation is an isolated case. Maybe this is going on and will go on throughout not only other countries, but even in the United States itself. But we read on. Russell, described by her family as an exceptionally social and spry, was one such person. Her family says she chose a medically assisted death after she declined so sharply during a lockdown that she didn't want to go through more isolation this winter. She was sick of being lonely. She was sick and tired of being by herself. And being locked and confined into a room when you're already an old person where your muscles have an ability to atrophy so quickly and they just lock you away. We read on. This time doctors approved her. Russell would not have to go through another lockdown in her care home. Quote, she just truly did not believe that she wanted to try another one of those 2-week confinements into her room, her daughter said. And not to argue with the daughter here, she is the daughter of the mother that chose this path. We have to wonder, why aren't you fighting? Why aren't you deciding that this is not right, that these people are controlling the situation, not you, not your mother? We'd like to note, and it posts down here, that she actually could be surrounded by her friends and family when they were sending her off. When 90-year-old Nancy Russell died last month, she was surrounded by friends and family. They clustered around her bed, singing a song that she had chosen to send her off, as a doctor helped her through a medically assisted death. So companionship, to be made dead, but not to remain alive. And her family thinks this was just a fine option, demonstrating how the social mindset becomes twisted by euthanasia consciousness. But we are told killing to end suffering is so compassionate, and lockdowns are measures of good public health. Those with eyes to see, let them see. That's the end of the article. We actually think that they make a very valid point here. Yes, it is very good to have quality of life, but it's a terrible thing when you're throwing it away over 2 weeks of another lockdown that politicians spurred on. Not doctors, not lawyers, not anybody else, but politicians. They spurred that on, and they're making it to where elderly people are having a hard time, especially in assisted living. In assisted living, they're not letting them even leave in any context. Outside their rooms, they're getting essentially the same treatment as any jailbird. 3 meals a day, locked away in your room. You might get a couple of hours outside of your room. If there's any chance that these elderly folks in assisted are still assisting themselves, they're going to have problems now. We've often wondered if it wouldn't lead down to this path, and now it has. We're seeing it, that there's elderly people visibly suffering to the point where euthanasia is an actual option. You don't control the situation. Your mother, your father, you don't control the situation. Politicians control the situations. And right now, they're telling your grandparent, your parents, that they're not allowed to leave. They committed no crime, but they're not allowed to leave. They aren't sick, but they're not allowed to leave. They haven't done anything wrong, and they've had their freedoms taken from them. It's astonishing that anyone allows this. It's astonishing that people the world over are even willing to put up with this nonsense. When euthanasia is supposed to be an answer to elderly and COVID, that's when we all need to take a step back and wonder, is it worth what we're doing? The media doesn't bring this up. They don't bring up all of the suicides that have happened over the past 7 months, 8 months. People aren't working. People aren't able to pay their bills. People are being shunned. People are being told that they can't go to work. You can't leave your homes, and meanwhile, your pantry is going empty, and the only thing that seems to matter is what the news media says so. We think it's appalling that her family would be so open and willing to allow this to happen. Why wouldn't one of you at least take her home first? Get a nurse. Get some insurance to get a nurse. To do something other than put her down like a rabid dog. And you didn't do it because she herself was sick enough that it needed to be done. You did it because she didn't want to put up with another lockdown. What's next? I can't wait for the new Nintendo to drop, so let me go ahead and off myself right now. I can't hold. The suspension is killing me. Is that what we're going to lean towards? It's not like a time capsule. You don't off yourself and then wake up 2 weeks later. That's forever. And they walked her down that path. Everyone led her down that path. Politicians said, oh man, we're going to make it so bad for you that you actually feel this way. And then you have a family that's willing to cow down to the whole mention of it. They cow down to the politician and they cow down to her mother's wishes. And none of them have enough sense to say, hey, look, this is a situation that was not her fault. It's a situation that is not our fault. Let's do something else. And you're going to sit there and sing songs while they allow her to perish. We get it. Maybe she chose it herself, but we guarantee you she would not have chose that method had COVID not existed. Had this political environment surrounding COVID existed. If it didn't exist, that situation would have never happened. You're having deaths all over a country that aren't being attributed to COVID in any way, shape, or form, but they are a direct result from the actions and inactions that are being taken right now while everybody is flipping out and worried about it. People are scared to take care of other people because they might get something. People are afraid to deal with other people because they might get something. Businesses are closing because the government says you might get something. It's all fear tactics all the time, and unfortunately, some people buy into it lock, stock, and barrel, and stuff like this happens. If the Agenda 21 people really do want people to off themselves, here it is. Make life so miserable for everyone that they do themselves in. I say instead of doing that, why don't you stick it to the politicians? Fight until your last gasp of breath. But for God's sake, do not cow down to these politicians that are telling you that this has to happen, that we're going to go through some more bad times. As if the first lockdown worked. As if masks have worked. Why are we getting a surge if masks, social distancing, and the previous lockdown worked? The only answer you have now is longer lockdowns. And the lockdowns were somewhat proven not to work. Obviously, we're still having this big uptick, and the media is stuck in this big hamster wheel, this big merry-go-round where they keep coming around the corner. Yes, we have COVID, and it's worse again now. We've taken all of these preventive measures, but it doesn't matter because it's worse now. But how is that even possible? During the polio scare, everyone took preventive measures, and they went as far as to make a vaccine for it, and everything turned out a lot better than this. It's amazing stuff. It's amazing that people fall for this and treat their own family with disrespect and listen to the government, the politicians, more than their own minds. This family could have had a little bit of patience and dealt with her pain of dealing with a lockdown for 2 weeks and then walked out of it and seen her. But that doesn't make their life any less valuable. It makes it more so. Because they didn't get the option of choosing their path. They're having it forced on them. The elderly that paid for their way, that made the lives before us, made the world before us, they're the ones that are paying for the political hit job that is Cooties 19. We wish Nancy Russell the best trip to heaven she could possibly ask for. She wasn't brought into this world knowing that her end was going to be nigh because some political hit job of a disease. She didn't know that was going to be her end. No one ever would. But unfortunately, Miss Russell died early, all because she didn't want to go through more lockdowns. It was that traumatic for her. We remember one lady that we really adored. We thought she was a really nice lady. She went through chemo, and she came out of it cancer-free. And they always checked her and checked her and checked her. She said, she swore up and down, I will never get chemo again. It was that bad. I would rather die. Well, when she did get diagnosed with cancer, she did indeed die because she refused to get the chemo. And we understand, but we think you would have had more time. And in the same token, we think this woman that didn't have enough ailments to even warrant euthanasia, we think it's really a waste of a life. It's really bad that the politicians had so much to say that they walked everybody through death's door. And it's a horrible thing to see any country do this. We expect it from Canada, but it's rough to believe that Canada might be worse than Mexico in regards to human health. It takes months, regardless of if they have free this or free that, it takes months to be seen in their system. Any system who takes months to see someone to take care of them, they obviously don't care about their people that much. That seems pretty obvious, no matter how free it is. We're glad the family feels okay about that option, but we don't. We wonder if all across the country we're going to see more of this. Is this supposed to be some type of answer? Because we can guarantee that most people are going to pull them out of places like that are going to even suggest this horrible treatment. What are you going to do after the lockdown when you've offed yourself? It's amazing that people have bought into this lock, stock, and barrel, and we sincerely hope that everybody gets up off their laurels and decides, hey, this is a junk thing. This is junk news. This is fear tactics, and they're designing this to be a hit job on America's economics. And unfortunately, you have collateral damage and people that believe in everything so quickly that they're willing to give up their own families. Bump that idea. No one should ever act that way. Family is family, and you stick up for them and you try to fight for them as long as possible to your last breath. These people didn't do that, and it must have been very comforting knowing that she wasn't going to have to sit through another lockdown. But at the end of the lockdown, she still would have had her life. She still would have went on, no matter how miserable it could have been for that 2-week period. But regardless, the real people to blame for this type of stuff are the politicians that push the narrative that lockdowns even work. It didn't work the first time. It's not going to work a second time. And the masks and the social distancing, if they're not going to work, then what is? Anyway, you folks have a wonderful afternoon, a good night, a good morning, whichever. Please like, share, and subscribe. We really do appreciate that around here. Also, drop a comment down below. We like to talk with you. We like to pick your brain. And if you have any ideas for new videos, we sure appreciate that too. Don't forget to hit your notification bell. If you don't hit your notification bell, you might not see our videos. God bless each and every one of you. See ya.